Bertie, you are a Celtic icon, but you were born Robert Auld 80 years ago in Firhill, 1938. What was life like for a young boy growing up in Glasgow during and just after the Second World War?
I promise you, I wouldn't, in any sense or form, I wouldn't change my life for anything. As you just mentioned there, I was going to say I was 21, I'm 80 years of age, and I promise you, if that's me going to finish tomorrow, I couldn't ask for anything better. Even during the war, whenever, I remember a little about it because I had two elder sisters, Margaret and Marion. Margaret passed away a couple of years ago, and she was a superstar, honestly. She was like my mother, because 9 times out of 10 my mum was out selling fish and fruits, so it meant that Margaret took over, Margaret and my dad. And I promise you, she treated us well. But looking back to the war and the noise and well, you know what happened in different places in Glasgow with the bombings and such like. I was a wee bit young to realise what that was, I'm glad to say, but it was quite terrifying. But what we did, we opened the window, the bathroom window, and we all listened to it there and kept everything in the dark. So it was a frightening time, yet the family was very strong, and so was the street very strong, because there were an awful lot of families had the same age group of children that was born. So you know what I mean. You grew
up just a stone's throw from Partick Thistle's football ground, Firhill. Unlike nowadays, I can imagine back then your young footballing life very much took place on the street.
Oh, it did, and that's, as I said to you, I wouldn't change my life for the world, honestly. I loved the school. We played, I'll tell you what I liked about it. You played the football whenever you get a tea break about 10 o'clock in the morning, and then you would get back you'd finish about 12, and you would have the football from 12 to about 1:30. You went back in, and then you'd get the football at 3 o'clock again. Football was always a big part of my life. My dad encouraged me, and such like my sisters encouraged me, and let me say this, as I said to you earlier, I was so fortunate. I wouldn't change my life for the world. Any school I went to, I was playing in the team. And that was my life since I was that age and everything like that.
Did your father and your sisters encourage you because they could see the talent?
Well, my dad, he was a very keen football-minded person. He himself played. My mum came from Girvan. Her father was a hawker. They had horses and carts, and they went round the villages and such like. And my dad came from just down there at Bridgeton Cross, and he was just a labourer. But for each child, he had a different job. But that's how easy it was to get a job in these days. My dad was football mad. When I was at the age to play for an amateur team, Panmure Thistle, the Thistle strip and everything like that. Believe it or not, although we were just a stone throw away from Firhill, I very seldom seen inside it, because we'd be playing football, as you mentioned there, in the street, and it didn't matter if there were only two there. There was one aside and one close to the other close, and then it went there to maybe 10, 15, 20 aside. And you were right again, it was a tennis ball, because we couldn't afford bladders in the days, you know. And I was lucky. My mum, one year, would give me a pair of football boots, and the next year she would give me a football, which was a leather football. So that's how I say it. Each and every time it was all about football. My dad, football daft. He finished up, he was a trainer. When we won the amateur league 2 or 3 times, and the third time that I played, I was a protest, because they says that I'd signed for Firhill Harp as a professional. I didn't. I signed as an amateur, but I couldn't sign 2 amateur teams. You're only allowed to play for 1 amateur team. And Panmure Thistle, they lost the trophy of winning it in Glasgow. Tournament in Glasgow was magnificent.
Tell us about the young Bertie Auld then. What kind of footballer were you back there in the Panmure Thistle and the Firhill Harp days?
As I say, the Panmure Street was just a new scheme, and it was the highest building was a 3-storey, and we stayed in the 2-storey. And each close and each had families all about the same age group and such like. And there were a lot of great players. Well, when I say that, I thought they were great players and playing against them and such like. And that was a big influence on me because it was something I wanted to do and we had plenty of them to do it. Rockhill Park was, we could, whenever the park keeper closed the gates, we let them go out of sight and then we would jump over the palings and such like and carry on playing. And so that's what it was, you know what I mean, big families, passionate families, very, very close families, you know. If your mum wasn't there and your dad was working, they would make sure that you had a sandwich or something like that. But the most important thing of all, they loved you playing in the street.
Yeah, a real good sense of community that perhaps we've lost nowadays.
Oh, definitely. I think what happened was the television, and which is, I mean, don't get me, I don't know what we'd do without it now. But the television was the 1 o'clock gang, you know, which was only on for 5 minutes, Larry Marshall and the piano player. It was either a piano player and a mouth organ she played, I wasn't too sure.
So literally though, it's interesting that, so before the TV came, which kind of took people inside their house, the window was their TV, if you like.
Aye, very much so. But as I said to you, that when you were playing in the street, people were shouting from the window, you know, and the women as well as the men, because they enjoyed what they said, and it was a bit of humour as well as earnest, you know what I mean?
And then you did sign for Maryhill Harp and then eventually Celtic for the first time around. Am I right in thinking back then you saw yourself, or you were seen more as a winger?
Well, I was lucky in this sense that that Panmure Thistle had a lot of good players, and an awful lot of great players. Looking back, you appreciated what you were playing with, you know what I mean? And they always looked after you, you know what I mean? And I started there in an amateur team when I was about 14 or 15 years of age, and you had to get your mind suited for the occasion. And amateur football was very, very rough, and you know what I mean, you had to look after yourself. My dad used to say to me before every game, "Remember, son, retaliate first." You know, and things like that, you never ever forget. You grow up with them, and Panmure Street they had players, or boys round about my age in every close, and some great players. But I thought, and I still do, for you to achieve something, you must sacrifice. And their days was the same. Because growing up at Panmure Street, there were a lot of lovely guys, and there was a lot of fun in them and everything like that. And at weekends they would say, "Bert, we're going to the dancing." And I was maybe 15 at the time. I'd say, "Yeah, I'll go to the dancing." They would say, "Right, where are you going to meet?" I says, "No, you tell me where you're going." And they would say maybe Munn's pub, and I'd say, "Well, and this is about the part that I made sure that I never ever went into bars or anything like that. Not because it was getting thrown in your face all the time. I just felt as if that I wanted to be a football player more. And yet some of them had tremendous ability and you looked up to them, you know. But that's just why I say to achieve something you must deprive yourself in something. And I was wanting to be with them because I loved their company and I loved playing with them. But I wanted to be a footballer more than they did because they wanted to get into the pub and have the humour. And that was a big decision.
And it paid off because, of course, you made the move then from Maryhill Harp to Celtic the first time around. How did that move come about?
Well, it's like everything else. I remember my dad worked in Sean McKinney's, which was a foundry, and he came into me one day just after I'd finished work, and he says, "Bert, one of the people that's working in Shaw's was looking at you," he says, and he was a Maryhill Harp scout. He says, and he's wondering if you would like a game there. And I'm saying, "Well, I'm playing with Panmure Thistle, Dad, you know what I mean? And I love playing with Panmure Thistle." He says, "Well," and I says, "But I don't mind." I says, "Yeah, I'll play with him." So, as I say, I was only 16 years of age. And you had to be 17 to play professional football. And I was only 16. And I went up and I met John McNellis, who was the secretary, and he was the one that gave you your money. I remember the first wage packet I got for Maryhill Harp was £0.50. That's 12 pence to him that doesn't know that, you know. So, and you had to buy your own boots. But, and I went and played, and they were desperate for me to sign. But I was still too young to sign a professional form. So what I did, I signed an amateur form for them, you know, so that meant that Panmure Thistle, you couldn't play for both teams. But that was unfortunate. But it was just a step in the right direction, because it was more physical, the games I played, and honestly, there were crowds there, maybe 100 people. The atmosphere was good, and I really enjoyed playing in it. And I was looked after because the players were in a better us, and that's where I says when it came to the likes of the boys' situation we playing just now, I preferred playing in the reserve team, because for the simple reason you were playing with professional players that had been through the ranks and such like. There were not as many coaches in our days as now, and I think it's great, the coaches. I'm not criticising the coaches, but I think we should have a reserve team, because see the amount of players that's in the dugout in match days just now. There must be 6 or 8 players. You just imagine if there were a reserve team, they could play in the reserves and also get into the dugout for the senior games.
Tell us about. Let me take you back. How did you feel, and how did your family feel when you signed for Celtic the first time?
Well, my dad. I promise. I'm going to tell you how I got to Celtic Park the first. I couldn't have taken you at Celtic Park. Staying in Panmure Street. John McNellis was the secretary of Muriel Harp. He was the only one with a car in Mary Hill, and he came up to Panmure Street, 95 Panmure Street, and picked us up. And I promised him there must have been a crowd of 20 people waiting me coming down the stairs with my dad to get in the car to go to Celtic Park. I thought it was a wedding. They were waiting for a wedding. You know what I mean? Not that there were going to be a scatter of any money, because I was skint. But in saying that, I went in the car, and he took us through Glasgow, and then we got to just down at London, at the bottom of London Road, where the bar was. It was a Sunday I went. I'd already been asked by Clyde and Partick Thistle. They were wanting to sign me, and Partick Thistle honestly was giving me £60 signing on fee and £2 a week. Clyde was doing the same, £60. Davy Meiklejohn was the manager of Partick Thistle. I just forget the manager of Clyde, but they were very positive in what they thought we would do, and playing at that level and getting into the clubs and such like. It was a Tuesday. I went into Partick Thistle, £60, Davy Meiklejohn. Thursday, going into Clyde, £60, and then on the Sunday, because I was playing on the Saturday, I came to Celtic Park, and Jimmy McGrory was waiting outside the door for me. And what a beautiful man, a gorgeous character. And he was a big influence, and I didn't need sold on it, but he was waiting, and he was outside, and he had the pipe in his mouth, and he was immaculate. And right away you seen the difference, you know. I mean, standing outside and coming out the car, and the massive stadium. And he says, "Is Bert?" I says, "Yes." He says, "My name is Mr. McGrory." I said, "I'm very pleased to Mr. McGrory." And my dad came in, and we walked in. Jimmy asked us to go into the boardroom. And I had always a heavy growth. And my dad used to say to me, "Don't you be using my razor. If you do that, I'll put you up the backside," right? And the school teacher used to say, "Don't you be coming in with the sidewalks," because he says, "And if you come in with the sidewalks, I'll give you a belt, maybe 2 of the belt." So it didn't matter what happened, I was going to get the belt or about the backside. So when I went in on the Sunday to Jimmy McGrory, he saw me and it was all cuts. And he said to me, my dad was at my back, he said, "Would you like a drink, son?" My dad says, "Here, my boy doesn't drink." He says, "But I do." So that was the introduction. And my dad got a couple of whiskies. And then the boss, outstanding. I loved him. He was a beautiful person. And he says, "Well, as you can appreciate, Bert," and Mr. Auld, he gave my dad his place as well, you know. He says, "We've heard an awful lot about your boy, and we'd like to sign him." My dad says, "All right." And Jimmy McGrory says, "We'll give him £20 signing on fee, £2 a week, and £half a crown travelling expenses." You came on a Tuesday and a Thursday. And my dad says, well, take it. And I looked round at my dad, because I knew my mum was a hawker, and she was sixpences and shillings she was dealing with, you know. And I'm saying, no, for God's sake. So anyway, I signed the form in the boardroom, and I promise you the trophies were there and everything. It was awesome. And Jimmy McGrory says to me, son, have you ever seen inside? I says, no, Mr. McGrory, never. Oh, he says, right. He says, wait a minute. He says, have you ever seen a new £20 note? I says, Mr. McMurray, I've not seen an Allian. And he just started to laugh, and the pipe was always in his mouth, and he brought out this 20, and it was all the word like a tablecloth. It was a massive thing, and I folded it all up, I put it in my hand like that, and I had it all like that. I knew it wasn't going anywhere, you know. And he says,
you were obviously in awe then of him,
yeah,
and of Celtic. Did that come across when you went into the dressing room for the first time? Were you in awe of these players, or did
no,
your character come out and your personality and you fit in straight away?
Well, you know, the great thing about it in the days was that they were your coaches, your experienced players. You know, the Peacocks, the Collinses, Big Jock, he was still a player then, you know, and they made a big fuss of you, you know what I mean? Because I remember nearly saying to Charles Patrick Tully, I'd just come walking in and got my training gear on, and Nearly was in the treatment room, and Charlie was standing in the treatment room. Oh, I loved him, Charlie. People says that I used to look like Charlie. I promise you, if I was half the player that Tully was, I'd have made, in my own mind, I'd have made the grade. Because he was a character that sold himself and entertained, outstanding man. So anyway, I came in and I got my training gear on, and I went into the treatment, and Nearly was getting treatment, and Charlie was at the back, and Charlie says, listen son, he says, I've got a friend of mine that's Irish, and he's either man or Scunthorpe or something like that, and they were telling me he was wanting to speak to you. And Nearly Mockin says, aye, because you're frightened in case he takes your place. And that gave me a lift. But as you can appreciate, getting in among these people, they always made you feel so important. The Bertie Peacocks, the Tullys, Charles Patrick, oh, awesome. He used to tell his stories all the time. I used to get on the tram from just under the central station at the bridge yonder. And who was on the tram just before me was Charles Patrick. And I would go up the stair and we'd get into this wee compartment. And all of a sudden we'd get to Glasgow Cross, and Charlie was immaculate, lovely brown hat, soft hat, fawn suit, brown suede shoes, and we would get to, and the pub, they would come out the pub knowing Charlie would be on that tram, and they would start singing, Charlie, Charlie Tully, and he'd get up and he'd start, and he'd take his hat off, like in this compartment, honestly, and that, see that? I was sitting back like that, and I couldn't get it all in, take it all in.
Was it difficult then when the time came and you left Celtic 1961 to go to Birmingham City?
As you know, before that, Celtic tried to transfer me to Everton. What actually happened, and Bobby Collins went for 24,000, and Celtic were offered 15,000 for me, a double transfer. And the boss, who I loved, he looked very as if he was embarrassed saying it to me. He says, Bert, can I have a word with you? And I'd say, yeah, Mr. McGraw. But this time I'd be in the first team, you know. And I got dropped for the 7-1 team, the Rangers game. I played in every round and get dropped in the final. But Nearly Mockin was a better player than me at that time. Nearly was and he was a great influence to me. So when that happened, he says, Everton is made, and Bobby, that's where we're, first enough, you and I were speaking about the floodlighting earlier today. Well, that's where we got the money for the floodlights. The first set of floodlights was Bobby Collins' transfer to Everton. It was 24,000. Everton made a bid for me for 15,000, and I hadn't a clue where Everton was. Even if it had says Liverpool, I wouldn't have known it. The furthest I'd been was Girvan, where I'd went with my mother, and I helped a farmer out to sell his milk. So I mean, I wasn't wanting to go any further than that. And I says, oh, I'm not going to Everton. No, and I never won. Years and years later, I used to meet Bobby in Mallorca, and he always spoke about it. He says, oh, I'd have loved you to come. In hindsight, I thought, and I still do it this day, I did the right thing You know what I mean? Because my dad says, see if you can play football, son, and entertain this support. This is when I signed at 16. This support I'll never ever forget. No bad for a brickies labourer, was it?
No, absolutely not. But you did eventually make that move to Birmingham City. But being a Glasgow boy through and through, I mean, you must have been homesick.
Yeah, well, I was never away from the house. You know, that's my mum and my dad. There were 7 years and kids, and it was all about. It was a great family. You know, we all enjoyed each other. There was never any hassle. But when it came to go to Birmingham, I promise you, what had actually happened was I played at Edinburgh in a reserve game, and after the game I'd scored about 3 goals or something. After the game, the first team get beaten. I was keeping my boots off and getting ready again for a shower and that. And this massive character come into the dressing room, and I looked up and he turned around and he tapped me on the shoulder and I says, well, yes sir. I says, what is it, sir? And this is the way he went about it, honestly. And with me being in the reserves, I played in a lot of first team, get dropped in the final. By the way, as I said to you earlier, Neely Morgan was a better player than me at that particular time. And he, 7-1 was the score, as you know. Do you understand what 7-1 was the score? The 7-1 team, you know. And I didn't think that Bob Kelly knew much about football. What a man he was. Dropped me and put Neely in, and Neely was a superstar. So this fella says, I want to sign you. In the dressing room at Tynecastle, I want to sign you. I want you to come and meet my directors. I want you to play this support. Our support are magnificent. And I'll tell you this much, we're going somewhere. And that's when I'm looking up and I'm saying, aye, fair enough. Try to get my boot off, you know. He says, I'm coming to your directors tomorrow. I'm going to put an offer in for you. And I said, oh, aye, right, okay. My head was down because I was delighted for everything, you know. And I went home and my family always waited for me. How did you play? Sometimes my dad would come to Edinburgh. The only place he never ever came to was Aberdeen. He'd go to Dundee, you know, he'd get somebody to drive and he would go to these places. And when I went into the house, my dad says to me, how did you go on? I said, I scored a couple of goals. It hadn't happened. I said, Dad, I'll tell you what happened. And I explained to him what had happened. This man came in. Jimmy Gribben was our trainer, but he was also the kit man and everything like that. He wasn't a football. He was a great, lovely man, Jimmy Gribben, you know. But he wasn't to do coaching or anything like that. I says, this man came in the dressing room and he says he wanted to sign me. My dad says, who was it? I says, I don't know. He says, what like was he? Oh, he's this massive, good-looking big guy, Dad. I says, he had this wee moustache, he says, in a crumb, got a camel hair coat, a tie belt. I says, he's massive. I was looking up. He says, and who was he with? I says, I never asked him. He says, he's just telling me he was wanting to sign me. He's going to meet our directors tomorrow. He's going to meet our directors. He's going to make a bid for you. He's wanting me to go and meet his... Now that, to me in itself, proved one thing, that the man wanted me to meet everybody and feel as if you're wanted. Well, at that particular time, I'm speaking about Bob Kelly used to pick the team. I'm not criticising Sir Robert Kelly because I think he had a lot of influence in me coming back to Celtic. I always felt, when even the day I signed for Birmingham, I always felt I'd go back in some capacity here because I got on great with the supporters and the players and I loved playing here, you know what I mean?
So who was the big guy in the hat? We're desperate to know.
It was Gil Merrick. Well, you might not know Gil Merrick. Gil Merrick was the most capped player before Banks and Shilton. He was the goalkeeper, I think the English goalkeeper. But what a man, what a gentleman, and what awesome. So anyway, needless to say, and when I went back home, my dad said, did any good happen, son? How did you play? And my man, my sisters and my brothers were all waiting. I said, I did all right, and blah, blah. And I said, this guy come in the dressing room, which should never have happened. Celtic never allowed him. And he says, who was it? I said, I haven't a clue. I says, but he says he was going up to see the board tomorrow. He says, you going? I says, no. I says, I'm not going now. And here, the next morning, which was a Sunday, I got a phone call to the house, and it was Jimmy McGrory saying that, no, I'm telling a lie. My dad says to me, you going up? I says, aye, I'll go up to the park. And I went up to the park, And I went round, and there were nobody there because it was a Sunday.
Yeah.
And I went training round the park. I got a ball, and I went out and started to try to hit the crossbar with my right foot. Crossbar. I was confident, you know. Somebody says I was big. Well, why change the habit of a lifetime? You know what I mean? And I would hit the ball with the left foot, and I would try to hit the crossbar, and I would come. If not, I'd had to run and get it, and then the right foot. And as I was doing that, the boss, Jimmy McGrory, came out and he says, "Bert, can I have a word with you?" I said, "Of course." He says, there's a manager from England up has made an offer for you. And wait till you hear the surprise. He says, and the club's accepted it as if they would, you know. So he says, and he wanted to say, and are you interested? He said, I said, no, I'll go and speak to him. And that's when I first knew who it was. It was Birmingham City, Birmingham City, and his name was Gil Merrick. I says, well, I met you yesterday. He says, that's right. And Jimmy McGrory says, well, the board has accepted that. And what about yourself? So my dad says, if I was your son, I would take it. So I says, well, okay. I says, I'll come down with you, or I'll come down to Birmingham, see the place, have a look and he says, well, I'll tell you what I'll do. This is Gil Merrick speaking to me at Celtic Park. He says, you'll meet each and every director. He says, and no doubt there'll be some of the players there. He says, and also, when you're in Birmingham, you'll meet an awful lot of the supporters. So I says, right, okay. So I travelled down with him on the Monday. And the scout was a guy called Don Dorman. And Don was a lovely character as well. But I stayed in the North British Hotel or something like that in Birmingham. That's where we travelled down and went into this lovely, it's a wee bit of the central in Glasgow, you know what I mean? And I had a lovely room, and they came up with me. And Gil Merrick says, well, as you can appreciate, Bert, I need to get back and see the wife. He says, well, you'll come at the game, you'll come at the park tomorrow, we'll send someone down and pick you up. I says, great. Dorman says, I'll pick you up. I says, well, that'd be great, Mr. Norman. Right. He says, Bert, he says, we're having troubles in the house, as you can appreciate, or else I would have stayed a wee. Don Dorman said this. I said, don't worry about it. I says, I'm okay. I'm not kidding you, I had a case. I had a pair of underpants and a vest. That's all I had.
That was it.
And I had only one sock. I forgot to take the other sock. So as you can appreciate, I wasn't kidding on, and I was kidding, messing about the wee case, and my toothbrush and that was there. No, that'll do me. And they two left. And that's the first time I felt, and I looked at myself in the mirror when I'm into the toilet, and I looked at myself and I said, what are you doing here? What made you come down here? Then I started, and Mr. Doubtful in my presence, you know. And I'm saying, just get that case packed again and get back up the road. And I was messing about with my case, banging at the door, and opened the door. Who was it? Don Dorman, the chief scout. And he says to me, Bert, he says, I'm sorry he says, trouble you, he says, but I'll tell you what's happened. He says, well, a wee bit of commotion and things like that, we're not getting on together. He says, I wonder, how would you like to go to the movies with me? I says, aye, that'd be great. Now, to this day, I wonder, I've always come back in my mind, any doubt, what would have happened if I'd have says, no, I'm just going to train.